David Zaka once said that tackling life's challenges is like eating an orange. They're much easier to handle one section at a time. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Christian Questions Talk Radio with your breakfast with Jonathan and Rick. The objective of our program is to discuss with you, our listeners, thought-provoking, meaningful topics based on the Bible. It's a call-in format. We are caller-friendly, and we look forward to hearing from you. And Jonathan, what are we discussing this morning?
Well, Rick, our question is, can there be good grief? And our theme text is found in Psalms 34, verses 17 and 18. The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit.
And in the first hour, Jonathan, we were talking about grief and what it is and how it works. And actually, before I get into all of that, why don't you handle the items of business first?
Sure. Feel free to check us out on our website at christianquestions.net. If you're listening live on that, there is a delay, so be aware. We have many archive programs to listen to, and feel free to use them for your personal Bible studies. And if you have any questions and comments, it's the best place to contact us. Again, that's christianquestions.net.
All right, thank you. And back to our subject, Jonathan, we're talking about grief and the question, can there be good grief? And in the first hour, we looked at the anatomy of grief, and there was a really good article from about.com. And I'm just going to summarize it very quickly, talking about the 7 phases of grief. And we're just going to do this very quickly. The first phase of grief is where you're informed of the death or whatever, and during this phase you have a vast array of emotions: anger, sadness, shock, and disbelief, and this can last for quite some time. The second phase is when the numbness of the experience begins to wear off, and now you begin to feel the pain of loss is nearly unbearable. The third phase, a person may begin to reminisce and try to experience past events with the deceased. You look through photo albums, you revisit places, and sort of try to recapture the past. The fourth phase is the reinvesting of oneself. You're now showing signs of adjustment to life without that individual. Maybe discussions of starting over and so forth begin to occur. During phases 5 and 6, the past roles and relationships of the deceased now become classified as memory than an ongoing experience. And in the 7th phase, you're able to think and speak of that deceased person without the pain. Now, you still can probably feel sadness, but it's the pain that has now subsided. And Jonathan, as we discussed in the first hour, this is a long and drawn-out process, and with some people it takes a lot longer than with others. And it's not that we all go through all the 7 phases and you can identify, I'm in phase number 3 at this point. It's one of those things that understanding the phases helps us to grasp the whole picture, that this is something that is monumental. It's a monumental and a life-changing experience, and we want to learn how to deal with such a thing. So in the first hour, we spent some time looking at examples of grief in the Bible, and now in the second hour, we want to get down to it. Practically, what do you do? How do you handle your own grief? And then how do you handle and help with the grief of others? And folks, if you have a thought, it's 860-442-9956, 442-WXLM. So let's get into this, Jonathan, handling our own grief. I think probably the first thing we need to do is make sure we give ourselves full permission to grieve. Okay, and let's look at a scripture on that.
Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 4. To everything there is a season, and time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which was planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance.
If we give ourselves the ability to experience the time to mourn, the time to grieve, it becomes so much easier because you're allowing the experience to work itself through. And again, it's like rehabbing. If you've had surgery and you need to go through rehab, you can't just get up from surgery and go back to what you were doing. I'm reminded, and this is an analogy I just came into my mind, with baseball pitchers, they have something called Tommy John surgery, and that's something about replacing a ligament in the elbow. Typically, rehab for that surgery is about a year and a half, and most people are not able to come back to full strength for a long period of time. Well, grieving is the same way, and you have to give yourself permission to be able to go through that long and drawn-out and very difficult process. And Jonathan, sometimes it can feel like it's unbearable, and that's where friends and family come in, and that's where support comes in. But we need to be able to go through it. So I think that's one of the first and most important things, is just give ourselves permission to go through the difficulty, to acknowledge the fact that it's there, and boy, does it hurt like anything, and I don't like it, and I don't know what to do. That's okay.
Another way of handling our grief is realizing that life is not fair or predictable.
Okay, and what's a scripture for that?
Ecclesiastes 9:11 and 12. I again saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, and the battle is not to the warriors, and neither is bread to the wise, nor wealth to the discerning, nor favor to men of ability, for time and chance overtake them all. Moreover, man does not know his time, like fish caught in a treacherous net, and birds trapped in a snare. So the sons of men are ensnared at an evil time, when it suddenly falls on them.
And Jonathan, this I think is one of the hardest parts of dealing with the concept of grieving, is